Well, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Extremely happy to be here. I'm in my home office just north of Charlotte. I'm standing up, walking around. I hope that's not an issue. Um, Extremely passionate and excited to talk about this topic. I was at Microsoft for about 18 years, recently left, and working with now Microsoft's business group at Cognizant, helping drive digital transformation. I spent probably my last 4 or 5 years at Microsoft doing that there also. So I have a tremendous amount of passion about this topic, driving digital 2025. I will tell you that my experience with this topic is it doesn't make a great presentation. It's a better group conversation or a one-on-one conversation because it means something different to everybody. And for me to put together a presentation that represents my point of view may or may not fit what different companies are doing. So that's why I said it's a better conversation. But nonetheless, we're here today to kind of go through for 25 or 30 minutes our point of view. I'm going to share with you best practices, some common things we see companies do. I will share with you, none of this is earth-shattering rocket science stuff. This is not some concept that was born last night when we were all asleep. We've been living in this digital age for several years. So most companies have already thought about it. They've already looked into digital transformation. So I don't think I'm going to hit you with anything earth-shattering or new. I do want to hopefully share some things that we see other companies doing that seem to be working and some of our approaches to digital transformation, and maybe enlighten you on something you hadn't thought about or expand some of the way you've been thinking. So extremely happy to be here. Just the topics that I want to cover. Next slide. Yeah, there you go. I'm just going to cover four things real quickly. The need to be thinking about digital transformation and why we see customers really gravitating toward this radical way of doing business. The four pillars that we see that make up digital transformation, and then how you as your company can start thinking about preparing for the journey. And then finally I'll wrap it up with kind of an IT discussion around what are some approaches that we have from a digital operating model perspective that you should be thinking about. You probably have already started thinking about it, but I'll share with you our view of the world on that. So hopefully you're in the right meeting and those topics will be relevant for you. I want to start with a question that I like to ask companies when I first start talking to them about digital transformation, because that's a powerful question. And that question is, as you can see on your screen, what's the one question that if you knew the answer to would radically change your company's performance? And it's a deep question. It takes time to answer. It's not an IT question, so we're not expecting somebody to come back and say, wow, how can I reduce my number of domain controllers from 95 to 20 or something of that nature? It's truly a business question. And it lets your audience start thinking about what information they would like to know that they don't know, that if they did know would change the world. I've got some I just want to share with you. These are real life examples of what customers, after we asked them that question, they came back with. And we'll share these just to plant some seeds in your head of some things that you could be thinking about. The first one was a company that had a real bad employee turnover problem, and their question was, how can I reduce my employee attrition by 20%? And if I could do that, what would be the financial reward for my company? The next two came from manufacturers, different manufacturers. The first one was, what if I knew that my production line was about to go down and I could prevent it from going down? What would the impact be? And the second one was another manufacturer that had a quality problem, and their question was, why do I have 10% waste or bad quality? And if I could reduce that by 50%, what would be the impact? And another one was from a retailer that we're currently working with. How can I know more about the customers that are in my store right now, what their buying habits are, what their needs are, and how do I monetize that while they're in the store? And the fifth one was from a kind of a bottler company that we work with. How can my field sales team know the customer that needs to be called on Monday morning so that I can go sell them the product they need and increase my sales? And then the last one was kind of an IT-centric shop that their question was, why is my app dev taking too long causing me to not be able to go to market fast with new solutions or new features and functions in my current solution. So these 6 questions, or it's a great place to start with yourself or with a customer where you're really trying to get to the big nut that needs to be solved, the big business problem. My guess is most of you on the call, as I'm going through this, have already thought about some relevant questions that you would ask that would lead to a digital transformation journey. So before we look forward to 2025, it's kind of important to look back over the 3 revolutions that we've been through, and now we're in the 4th one, the digital revolution. And Gartner actually has some pretty interesting writings and feedback on this new digital business model. They talk about now more than ever, there's a convergence of people and processes and technologies and knowledge that is truly out there to change and transform and disrupt the way businesses work. So Gartner, if you're, most of us are Gartner subscribers, go read up on what they're saying about this also. They've got some real good stuff on it. But just to walk back to 1780s, and the whole point of this slide is to say the 4th revolution is as impactful, if not more impactful than the first 3. So in the 1780s, we had steam, and steam was able to really change the way production happens. And then in the 1870s, electricity came about, which allowed mass production. And then the 1970s, which some of us were starting our careers late or mid 70s, that came about, and that allowed us to automate production. And now with digital, it's here. We've got the ability with new tools, new knowledge, new ways to work, new workplaces to really transform the way business works and impact our profits and our customer satisfaction and the way we operate as a company. So again, the key takeaway from this slide is don't let it be lost on you that this revolution is just as transformational as the first 3, because it definitely will impact the way our world works. So I created this slide. This is kind of my I coined it my "Where did you hide your squad car, Dick Tracy" slide, because there's nothing on here that's new. There's nothing on here that's terribly impactful. These are all things that every company deals with. But I created because there's some common themes as to why people are approaching us today to help them with a digital transformation journey. And they kind of fall in one of these 6 silos. And again, they're not radically new, but when we ask the customer to give us a question, we can quickly get them into one of these silos. The first one is the need to disrupt the market. And we see a couple reasons driving that. One is the companies realize that there's an opportunity to disrupt and they can monetize it and profit from it. And that's one. The second one is they realize that if they don't disrupt the market, they're going to become irrelevant and they're going to be out of business. So they come with we've got to get on a digital transformation journey so we can disrupt the market. The second one is improving connection to customers. That's always been important. But now with the technology and customers wanting a 360-degree view of their customer, the processes, the technology, the knowledge is there now today to really improve that connection, and people can see the value of doing that. The next is significant cost reduction. Again, every company in the world forever has wanted to cut costs, but now we're getting customers come to us and saying, I can't live with this 4% cost reduction year over year. I've got to have significant. I've got to cut my cost by 25, 30% in order to survive. And that leads to a digital transformation discussion. The next one is interesting. It's attracting and retaining employees. And part of it's driven from the workforce. As we all know, the new workforce, the millennial workforce, they're out there. We need to attract them. We need to retain them. And I have grown kids in this category. They want to work differently. They want to communicate differently. They want to work and communicate at work as they do at home and in their social environment. So we have to use digital transformation to change the way employees are working and empowered to be productive. The next one is increased profits. And again, every company's wanting to do that, but customers are coming to us now saying, this organic curve that I'm on 3 to 5% every year is not working. I've got to make a spike. I can't just live with the curve. So digital transformation is a tool for addressing that. And the last one is just survival. It's with what's happening with our world today, and with lots of companies out there, companies are coming to us saying, hey, I only have 12 to 18 months to survive. If I can't make it, I'm going to be irrelevant. I'm going to be gone. We had one approach us last week, a retailer that basically told us if they can't survive through the Christmas season, then they're gone. They won't be around come January. So survival is a big reason folks are getting on the digital transformation train. So again, those aren't new. My guess is that as I was going through those, you're able to say, yeah, we've got one of those problems, or we've got multiple of those. And if you do, then a digital transformation future should be in front of you. And it may very well be, you guys may already be looking at it. But we see, again, from a best practices perspective, customers typically start out in one of those silos as needing help for a digital transformation journey. So I've often been asked what digital transformation really means, and I don't think there's one definition that means the same thing for everybody. It's all different. There are some key things within a definition that need to hang on what digital transformation means, and here's a good sentence. The first is digital competencies. If you're doing digital transformation, you have to be taking advantage of the digital competencies that are now in our world. And that's devices, tools, and knowledge. And you use those to drive disruptive change. This is not, digital transformation is too hard of a journey to just to get a minimal change. You're driving something really disruptive. And then lastly, you're using the cloud. You're using the analytic tools in the cloud. You have enterprise mobility, and you have social that are part of any digital transformation journey. So the whole point of this slide is I have not been able to find one definition that fits all, but every definition that I would use would have those three components to it. And just to build on that, we've been in this business many of us have been in this business for a long time. We've all dealt with data. We've all tried to turn data into knowledge, and then we've tried to take some action based on that knowledge. And to very simply, digital transformation in our world is automating that, accelerating that, so that you're able to capture the data that's out there, put it in a data lake, apply your institutional knowledge to it, and take an action. And all that's done quickly and hopefully automatically. So in the manufacturing environment, you're able to pick up the data point that says the vibration on this pump has exceeded the safe amount. The knowledge is the engineer said when it hits this vibration level, it's going to fail in a week, and then you can take an action to kick off a ticket that night for an engineer to go look at it and prevent downtime. And that happens without any human being involved, and it happens instantly the minute that vibration level is hit. So this is a tough one. This slide here is a tough one for IT because, and I'm terribly guilty of this, I always like to start with the end in mind when I'm doing an IT project or anything. And with a digital transformation journey, it's like Alice in Wonderland here was being told, if you don't know where you're going, any road can take you there. You kind of have to start without knowing where you're going. I haven't had one customer yet that's come to us to talk about digital transformation that knew exactly where they were going. And if they did, we were able to walk them back and help them understand that you don't want to lock yourself into a vision, because this is a 2 to 3 year journey, and technology changes, your business changes, your customers change, your company changes. So my advice on this one is resist the temptation to try to map out your final future state exactly before you get started, because you'll never get started. And if you do, it'll be wrong 6 to 12 months into it. So create an environment where you can be agile, you can be nimble, you start, you move fast, you fail fast, and then you move on. That's the only way these things work. So the four pillars of digital transformation. This is my favorite slide. It could be my most important slide. There's a lot of stuff happening on the slide, and it's a little bit misleading, but it frames the way we think about digital transformation and the way we communicate to our customers and those that talk to us. There's 4 pillars. that we think are involved in digital transformation. And I've got a couple slides after this to go a little bit more deep on it. You could spend weeks going deep on these and talking about what's in here. And every Microsoft has a point of view, AWS has a point of view, everybody has a point of view. But most of them kind of come back to these four pillars. The first one is empower your employees. And that's all about making your employees more productive, engaging your customers. That's all about driving more revenue by a more customer-centric model, optimizing operations, driving out costs, improving your processes, and transforming your products and services. That's turning your current widget into a service that can be disruptive. A couple of points on this slide. There's arrows that indicate flow, and there's not really a natural flow. Some customers will start at different pillars and they'll go different directions. So don't read into it that you have to go from empower your employees to engage your customers. Second point is IT. This is not an IT-led thing. IT has a huge seat at the table, maybe the biggest seat at the table, but IT does not lead these digital transformation journeys. They have to be led from the business. And then the last thing on this slide I would point out is don't fall into the trap of thinking that you should only address one pillar at a time. You really need to have transformational initiatives going in as many of these pillars as you can. And one of the reasons for that is each pillar will touch a different part of your organization. The people who care about empowering your employees are probably not the people that care about transforming your product. So multiple initiatives won't kill them in terms of a resource drain. So just to go deep, I think these slides are going to be made available, so I'm not going to read these, but wanted to give a little bit more context to the four as we think about them, as we see them. Empower your employees, as I said, really important today because of the new workforce and the way that they want to work and trying to attract and retain employees. Collaboration is key on this, and oftentimes we think about collaboration, we think about two people being able to be in a document, updating it, but it's really the way people work, the way people collaborate in the office, out of the office, with the remote workforce. It's connecting to that mobile workforce. And this one's often driven by HR, although we had one customer that came to us that was a marketing initiative that they were focused on this particular pillar. Engaging your customers, one of the most popular ones, people really want to start here. This is all about becoming more relevant to your customer, getting better insight, getting a 360-degree view. The cool thing about this one, to me, is this one's easy to tie value to. The empower your employees is, if you can, and that one, if you can get 10% more productivity, what's that really worth? But in this one, your sales organization knows if I can increase my revenue by 10%, what that means. If I can get 10% new customers next year, what does that mean? If I can get 10% more wallet share from my current customers, what does that mean? So these are easy to get the value, which is important as you putting together your ROI story and trying to meet your internal hurdle rates and so forth. And then the next two, optimize operations. This is internally focused. Usually it's all about process improvement. The technology is here today to do workflow, to do automation, move things through your processes automatically and efficiently, reduce mistakes, increase the speed. It typically starts out, as I said, an internally focused thing, but it quickly, when you do it right, it will address your suppliers and your customers also. And then the last one, transform your products and services. Really cool. It's turning your product into a widget, into a service. There's a company that makes batteries for equipment in a manufacturing facility. And when the battery failed, the equipment could be out for a couple of days, and they transformed their product to power as a service. And now that through IoT, machine learning, and analytics, they can predict when that battery is going to fail and either send a technician to fix it or replace it when it's down. All right, so when I get here in the conversation, the customer usually says, Rodney, we're done, we'll go away, or they'll say, okay, we see the need to transform. You've even given us some ideas around the pillar we should focus on. What do we do next? So I'll put together some real quick ideas around some things you could be thinking about what you do next. Each of these topics could be a day-long discussion, so I don't mean to minimize the importance of it by having 3 bullets for each one, but I just want to plant the seed. Here's some things you can go do. The first one, business alignment. As I've said, this is not an IT-led journey. This is something that the business has to do. It has to be a revolution, not evolution. You're not going to evolve to transformation. You have to revolve to it. The second one, envisioning and art of the possible. Different people call it different things. This is, we have sessions where we bring customers in and we whiteboard. We start with an empty whiteboard and we talk about their business problems, where they have holes, what they're trying to solve, and that turns into a journey, a set of goals that they're trying to hit, an area for them to focus on. Microsoft calls it the art of the possible. We call it an envisioning session. We also call it that also, but it's a whiteboard envisioning session to start to define your path. I'll hit these real fast. Develop a cloud strategy. This is an IT thing. IT has to do this. You can't transform without a cloud strategy. That's where the tools are. That's where the speed is. That's where the nimbleness is. The agile opportunities are. So you got to have a cloud strategy. And we find a lot of customers start dabbling in the cloud without starting with a true cloud strategy. But you have to have an enterprise cloud strategy to get started. And again, that's an IT thing. The second one here is prepare your infrastructure. You've got to, if Microsoft was in the room, they would call it modern workplace. You've got to have your infrastructure most current. It's got to be hardened because of security and identity. It's got to be enabled for mobile access. So there's things that you have to do with your infrastructure to prepare you for that journey. Prepare your resources. This is the people. You know, we've got the iron triangle that all IT project people know about. The people side of that triangle is just as important. And there's a lot of people change management that will have to happen on a transformational journey. Some employees will embrace it. Some won't. Some will resist it. Some will quit. But so you have to be aware of how you bring your people resources along. And that's not just limited to your team. That's your customers may need to be prepared. Your suppliers, your partners also need to be addressed. Next one here is focus on intelligent cloud. This is all about the data and the analytics. This is where the magic happens, according to Rodney. This is where the automated decisions, the predictive analytics is happening. So you've got to focus on that and have a good intelligent cloud strategy. Make sure you understand the tools and the environment that are needed to be in place to enable the transformation. Modernize your applications. We all have legacy applications. There's a portfolio that has to be assessed to determine, do you retire, re-platform, rehost the app? You know, where this app is going to need to go. Is it enabled for mobility? Is it taking advantage of workflow and automation? So you have to assess your application portfolio and modernize it. That's an IT thing that has to happen also. And then modernize your data estate. This is kind of touching several other ones too, but if your company's been around for 5 years or more, you most likely have a mess with your current data estate. There's disparate data sources out there. You've got governance issues, you've got integrity issues, and that has to be modernized and moved to a cloud environment. And that's not an easy lift, and that's an IT thing that has to happen also. And then the last one, just for fun, is once you do all those things, you've got the environment, then your company can just release or unleash the power of entrepreneurship. Once those tools are in place, new ideas can be thought of and tested quickly. Transformational things can be done with your customers, the way you connect. And then you sit back and let the power of people's creative minds work and change the company. So I got just a couple minutes left. I want to just share with you at the Microsoft Business Group our point of view around some of the technology. And people can do 5-hour presentations on this, and I'm going to try to do it in like 2 minutes. So you will need a digital operating model. We have one that we've created. We have IP around it. But if your company is going to transform, you will need yours or someone else's digital operating model. We have one that I'm just going to share, and I'm not the I'm not the best person in the company to talk about it, but so we have this is like our one world view of a digital operating model. We start at the top with the enterprise itself. The company itself has to have a going digital strategy. It's not necessarily an IT thing; it's a company thing, and the economics behind that, and how much you can invest, what you're expecting to get out of that. You have to have an agile framework to allow the tools to be brought in, the skill sets, the capabilities to be brought into your enterprise so you can be successful. And then on the left in the purple hexagons, and there's 100 other hexagons behind these that we could show you, but you have to address your intelligent workplace. You have to modernize it and you have to maintain it. And that's the identity, the security, the email, all the collaboration tools. You've got to get that shored up and get that in place. On the right-hand side is your cloud environment for development and lighting up data and getting your applications where they need to be so you can enable the digital transformation journey. And then just to give you an example of the way we talk to this with customers, I've got a couple. We have multiple journeys and roadmap slides that are some degree confusing, but just to show you that we have a plan the way we want customers to do it. So they're going digital, we would talk about cloud economics, organizational maturity, cloud strategy, and then we would branch out and help the customer with their intelligent workplace and their Azure or cloud environment, as well as their application factory and modern apps. So we would lead companies through the whole journey. The next one here, the last one I'll show you, is just around the modern apps, how we would segment and create swim lanes for you to modernize your apps. The cool thing about this slide that I'll point out is on the very far right-hand side is the gray boxes. And that's where we talk about how we manage, support, and operate the environment. We all know in IT, you can have the best solution created in the world, but if you don't transition it properly to your operations environment, if you don't ensure that it can be managed and supported and operated, then the whole thing just falls apart. So we're as concerned, if not more concerned, about the way it's managed, supported, and operated as the solutions that get sprinkled in as the transformation journey is happening. And then the last slide is just a recap of those 8 approaches that I shared with you. It just puts them all on one slide so you can see what they are. And again, they're not really meant to be sequential. You can do them all in your own order, but but they all have to be done. And so with that, Mr. Jason, I think I am done, and we're in the Q&A session.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that, Rodney. And yes, we do have some questions, some which were submitted prior to the session and some which will also be coming in real time here as well. So the first one comes from Tanweer Survey from Wells Fargo. Tanweer, starts with a bit of a statement. Digital transformation is all about convergence of people, process, and technology. Millennials are very comfortable with technology and expect to use it in the workplace, while most baby boomers can be bewildered by the new gadgets or change. So the question from Tanweer is, how would you bridge this gap within your workplace and drive transformation of any kind?
Well, first of all, I couldn't agree more with the statement. He's absolutely dead on. I don't know there's a single answer to it. There's definitely a huge change management piece that has to happen. I would say early on, the baby boomers, of which I think I'm one of them, have to acknowledge that in order to survive, we have to transform, and that there's a new world out there where these millennials are coming into the workplace with ideas, with new ways of working that they have to be embraced. And it is kind of a people change management thing, because the convergence is happening. You can look technology 10 years ago today, what you couldn't do versus today, what you can do with your iPhone or your Samsung phone. So it's here. It's a big change management challenge, and the company has to accept the fact that we have to go through this. And if somebody's internal that doesn't want to make the journey, can't make the journey, which happens, then they have to get off the train.
Definitely. It's been said by a lot of folks. We actually had a session yesterday was geared a lot towards change management, and this term digital transformation, it often gets caught up in how advanced your technical infrastructure is, right? Digital transformation is also a cultural mindset. It's being able to embrace what's coming and move forward and use it to the best of your ability, especially when there's technologies like AI, et cetera, that strike a little bit of fear into kind of like the ground workers. So thank you very much. Second question from Kevin Liu. How do you manage data lineage and protect data?
Well, we take advantage of the tools that come from, we're a Microsoft shop, obviously we're a Microsoft Business Group. So that's why we encourage the customer to analyze the modern workplace and get that shored up. I don't know if that's the right word, but get that modernized so you can leverage all the tools that protect your data and removes the risk as much as possible from bad things that happen because exposures may happen or people can access your systems. So we just leverage the tools. We have we work with customers routinely on ways to harden their infrastructure so that that's not an issue.
Okay. Great. Morten Sorensen, who, FYI, is one of the front leaders for the prizes already, attendees. So you've got some catching up to do. Morten asks us, he mentioned, obviously, you walked us through the pillars of a complete transformation. What do companies have to do if they have to operate in a hybrid state or incomplete transformation for a while?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think I've talked to one company in a long time that was totally cloud, and that was yesterday, and that was a new company that just formed. So yeah, you have to live with this hybrid state. I would say the application modernization activity that I talked about is key. You have to make decisions about what applications, what data has to stay on-prem and which ones can go to the cloud, and how you accommodate the transformation journey based upon that. But I don't think any of us are living in this world that thinks if your company's been around 10 years or more, you're not going to be able just to unplug the data center and put everything in the cloud.
Right. And Rodney, of the four pillars that you mentioned, is one more advantageous than other?
Are the four pillars?
Yeah, that you mentioned.
That's a great question. We get a lot, and it really varies by what the current pain of the customer's at, where they're at from a maturity perspective. I mentioned the marketing company or the marketing group coming to us about the employee retention. They hired a new visionary marketing person, and he or she saw that there was a huge problem with turnover, and they initiated that work. So it's really around where the pain points are. I think there's the internal, optimize your operations, because it's kind of internally focused, is sometimes an easy one to start at because people know where the bad processes are, especially in manufacturing. You can, with your SCADA system or Historia, you've got a lot of data already there, and the engineers already know what to do. It's just automating a lot of those things. So it's a company by company thing.
Gotcha. And then final question here is, I suppose, why is it important to have a robust cloud strategy before you begin said digital transformation?
Yeah, great question. A cloud strategy takes a while to build and then implement. It's not, and when your company decides they're ready to do a digital transformation journey, the cloud strategy, the cloud presence already has to be there. So it's a good way to get in front of it. But the advantages to the cloud, not only from scalability, reliability, security, but also from the tools that are now out there around analytics and data, IoT, the ability to ingest things from IoT and store them in the cloud. Those tools don't exist anywhere else. So, and you need those tools to transform. So you've got, in order to use those and leverage those, you have to be in the cloud, and be in the cloud, you need to have a smart cloud strategy that your IT folks developed up front and are executing toward.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Rodney. Much appreciated. A virtual round of applause for Rodney there from everyone. Thank you very much for that insight.